Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
Very tall, thin mantis-like humanoid encountered in Chicago's Schiller Park. My boyfriend and I were at Schiller Woods on Sunday, December 23rd. We doing a small Wiccan ritual in the woods when we saw a large thin man appear out of the woods and start staring us down. The man was extremely tall, about 7 to 8 feet tall and very, very thin. He was easily half the size of my boyfriend, and his arms hung down toward his knees. At first I was like, holy crap, it's Slenderman. But I quickly realized that it did not look like any man I have ever seen. First off, his eyes were huge, almost looked like a praying mantis's eyes, just jet black. He was wearing coveralls that were gray in color, and he looked like he was carrying a wand of some sort in his right hand. My boyfriend and I didn't feel scared, just a little shaken up. We stood there staring at each other for about a minute before it stepped behind some trees and disappeared. Once we lost sight of him, that is when the fear set in and we got out of those woods as quickly as we could. We were both sober, although we had smoked a little bud earlier as part of the ritual. It helps open our aura and allows us to channel energy better. My boyfriend and I are available to talk about this and can show you where we were at. It's right off the main trail, by this small traffic circle near the back of the woods.
Investigators notes. I spoke with both witnesses via phone and obtained the location of the sighting and the details that lead up to the sighting. The reporting witness is a 27-year-old female, and the second witness is her 28-year-old boyfriend. Both witnesses are from nearby River Grove, Illinois, and both have been practicing Wicca for about 4 years. The witnesses have indicated that they have both been to Schiller Woods on multiple occasions to do rituals and have seen other practicing groups there before. When asked why they go there for ritual, the female witness said they can practice in relative peace with little to no disturbance from the outside world. When asked about the encounter, the female witness said they were there to do a Yule ritual for prosperity. They were almost complete with the ritual when they both said she heard a very high-pitched sound that came out of nowhere. When she looked up, she saw the being attempting to hide behind a row of trees about 15 yards from them. The being she described as being between 7 to 8 feet tall and appeared extremely thin and looked like he was wearing a gray jumpsuit. She said that the being's arms were very long and hung to just above his knees and looked like they had claws. I asked her to please describe this, and she said they were long and just looked like they were tipped with claws or what looked like claws. She went further in describing the being as being smooth-headed, no indication of hair, and with eyes that were insect-like, only jet black, and took up most of its face. When asked if the being tried to move toward them, both indicated that it stayed behind the row of trees and would only move to conceal itself from them. Both witnesses indicated that they were both in full view of the being and that the being must have been aware that they could see it as well. Both witnesses agreed that this went on for over a full minute before the entity stepped behind the row of trees and disappeared from view. Both witnesses said that once the being was gone, they felt an overwhelming urgency to leave. The feeling bordered on fear, and it was like someone had unleashed a pent-up wall of fear that had somehow been held back during the encounter. Both witnesses gathered up their things and quickly left, got in their car and drove away and out of Schiller Woods. When asked if they noticed anything out of the ordinary as they were leaving, such as lights in the sky or unusual mist, etc., the female witness said she did notice a lack of wildlife as they left. The female witness indicated that those particular woods are teeming with deer and raccoons and other wildlife, and at that time of the late afternoon, early evening, they were out in droves grazing and feeding. These deer are used to people and do not scatter unless directly approached, and yet on the way out she saw no wildlife at all, no deer anywhere. When asked about the use of marijuana in their rituals, both indicated that they both did smoke marijuana prior to the ritual as a sort of ritual aid, but that the sighting they had was not induced by or influenced by the marijuana. Both claimed they were sober and clear-headed during the encounter. Both witnesses appeared to be sincere, and both did not seem to be fabricating any part of the encounter. Both witnesses indicated that they will eventually go back to the woods for ritual, and that they feel that their lives were not in any danger. An investigator with UFO Clearinghouse will be making a field visit to Schiller Woods in the upcoming days, and any photos and information from that field visit will be posted on this page. Manuel Navarrete.
Insectoid being encounter unnerved witness. Wow, I really feel weird writing this email. I am a sensible 59-year-old woman. However, my daughter, grounded in all things she can see and touch, would tell you I have one of the most open minds she's ever run across. I do have more of a willingness to approach things with an open mind because of my own experiences. I found you quite by accident after getting one of your books through Kindle Unlimited, and I thought how wonderful that people can reach out to you and tell you about their experiences without fear of harsh judgment. Well, here goes. I had an experience in 1993 that has bothered me for 23 years. My husband was involved but didn't see anything even though he was in the bed next to me. The only person I told was my personal physician the very next day. At the time, we lived in a 2-story house on a dead-end cul-de-sac in Seattle, Washington, about 5 miles from the SeaTac airport. It was sometime in late October or early November of 1993. It occurred in the middle of the night, about 2 a.m. My husband and I were asleep. I was on the side of the bed facing the outer bedroom wall, and my husband was asleep next to me. I woke up and rolled over, bringing the bedroom doorway into my view. The whole light was on outside the bedroom, so I had a clear view of the doorway. I saw something standing in the bedroom doorway. It was very tall, and I got the vague outline of some kind of robe-like clothing. I sat straight up in bed, grabbed my husband's arm and shook him, shouting there's something in the doorway. My husband bolted up out of bed and grabbed the baseball bat he kept next to the headboard, but as soon as I had shouted out, the thing was gone, just gone. I was near hysterical, and it took a while for my husband to calm me down. I told him I had seen something in the doorway. He checked the house, but of course there was nothing there. Everything was locked up tight. I felt like I was losing my mind. I apologized for scaring him like that and waking him up yelling. I don't really remember anything about the rest of that night, except that I was very upset and couldn't get back to sleep. I was very, very scared. I knew I had seen something. I didn't trust that if I went back to sleep that it wouldn't come back. The next morning I phoned my doctor and left a message asking him to phone me back. I told him in the message that I thought there was something really wrong with me. When he phoned me back, I broke down in tears, telling him that I felt like I was losing my mind. I told him that I know I saw something in my bedroom doorway in the middle of the night. It was real, I had seen it, but it wasn't possible that anything was there. He asked me what I had seen and I told him it was a thing, or a man, or something. He said that if a person is under stress, we had started our business earlier that year, it was possible to be dreaming, but you're waking up, and you think you see something. He prescribed some medication for my nerves and told me I should try to forget that it had happened. I was left with this feeling that I didn't really know what I had seen. It had happened so fast. I tried to forget that it had happened. But of course I never could. A few months later, I sat down at the table with pencil and paper and tried to go back to that moment when I saw the thing in the doorway and just kind of let my mind float and draw what I had seen. What I ended up with was bizarre and frightened me so badly, I just threw the drawing away and tried to forget about it. I had drawn an insect-like head with big eyes. A kind of robe outline and these insect-like arms and hands coming out of slits on the side of the robe. I can still close my eyes and see that thing in the doorway. Some details really stuck out at me, but others are so vague it's impossible to really describe them. I remember in detail 2 nub-like things on its head, but have only the vaguest sense of stalks or antennae coming out of them. And I remember the way the arms looked, but can't really remember what the hands looked like or what they were doing. I remember the eyes, but only remember an impression of 2 slits where a nose would have been, and I don't remember a mouth. I have only the vaguest sense of a robe or flowing cloth of sorts, but I remember the slits where the arms came out of it. Over the years I have tried to convince myself that because of the vagueness of some of the details, it must not have been real. But it still bothers me to this day. And I am still sure I saw something. I have never had the nerve or desire to tell anyone else about the experience, and I don't want anyone to think I am unstable. Even if I had wanted to tell someone about it, who would I tell? What good would it do? But I read in your book that some people have described an insect or praying mantis-like being that they have seen. I hadn't heard about that before. It sent a volt of electricity through my body like an adrenaline rush, and I got butterflies in my stomach. Everyone knows about greys thanks to the movies, never seen one, never want to dot. But if other people have seen the big insect thing, maybe there really was something in my doorway that night. If other people have seen this thing, maybe they will feel better if they know I saw it too. Even if only for a few seconds. Thank you for listening. I'm glad I finally got to tell someone about this. D.
Mantis Man, I saw your post this morning regarding the Mantis sightings. I just wanted to let you know it's kind of a relief to know about this, because when it first happened with me back in 1987, I thought maybe I was going crazy. I had contact with these beings at that time, but have rarely spoken of it to anyone. They communicated through some manner whereby they connected to the inside of my head through the brain behind both ears. When I became aware of it at first, it was like a humming with a clicking sound interspersed. Very much like what crickets might sound like on a large scale perhaps. I was curious and concerned by this and wondered what the heck was going on. To this day I still don't know if I intercepted a communication going on between them, like tuning into a radio station, or if it was deliberate on their part. At first I just heard the humming clicking noises, but then pictures started to emerge from these sounds. I was able to see what they looked like. Mantis is the word I used to describe their forms. I also knew from this communication that they were not on our plane of existence, at that time anyway, and that they were planning to emerge in our plane for their own purposes. I got the distinct impression that they were cold and insect-like, logical with very little in the way of emotion or compassion, which frightened me the most. The other impression I got from this was that they believed themselves to be our superiors like we believe about animals in our world. Whatever they were deciding, it was based on this belief, in other words for our own good or the greater picture. I hope this makes sense. From that time to this I never thought I would be hearing about this or reading about it in a public forum. I put it out of my mind for the most part, filed away under weird unexplainable things that don't make sense.
Ant beings praying Mantis Overlord. It was my wedding anniversary, so my significant other and I went to a bed and breakfast for a night. That night after we went to sleep, I remember being taken to a big white room where there was a lot of other people there. I was taken to a white hallway with two ant beings on either side of me until we reach a door. The door opens, and I see a tall 7 to 8 foot tall praying mantis insect being. He called me over and showed me a video of wars and conflict, and asked me if humans are worth saving. Then I went to the right of him and started to bring up on his computer video of positive aspects of human behavior. The being agreed. After that I found myself back in bed next to my wife. The next day on our way out of Sedona driving, we looked south, and there was a ship flying slow towards a mountain and goes behind it. After that it disappeared.
Praying Mantis Humanoid encounter, Greenville, South Carolina. Hi, I'm a 42-year-old female, married with grown kids and 5 grandchildren. First of all, since this encounter I have never forgotten it. Although exactly what happened is a mystery to me. I was around age 3 or 4, we lived in a trailer park in Greenville, South Carolina. In Mr. Hickham's trailer park. This would have been about 1976 or 1977. All this information has been confirmed by my mom. It was a warm and sunny day. I was playing outside with my 2 older brothers. I was the youngest of 3. It was a day like all the others. We were playing tag or hide and go seek. I went to hide. I ran around the back of our home. And suddenly I ran almost into a humanoid praying mantis. At the time I thought it was a giant insect. I could not really comprehend what I was seeing. I felt like all the breath was taken from me. It was taller than my dad, and it was standing next to our propane tank. Years later, when I thought about it, I told myself that maybe there was a gas leak. Anyway, back to the mantis. I stood there frozen in broad daylight, and the creature was just staring back at me. And then everything is blank, until I come running back into our trailer screaming that I'm in pain between my legs. My mother is so concerned that she pulled down my shorts and underwear to inspect. She says nothing is wrong, and I go to sleep crying. This has always been with me. It and this praying mantis stays in the back of my mind. Then a few years ago I hear about this UFO sighting reported by Highland, Illinois Police Department. Weird, I thought. We moved up there when I was 7 and moved back to South Carolina when I was 10 years old. I was telling my husband about this thing that happens when I was a kid. We both laughed as I swore it really did happen. So I got curious and googled the praying mantis aliens, and I remember it felt like I was punched in the stomach as I sat there looking at an imagery exactly how I saw it over 30 years ago. I showed it to my husband and he was in shock. I don't know what happened to me between my encounter and when I came running and screaming about burning down there. I had a real fear of monsters after that, and a great deal of nightmares, but nothing like what I saw. It was all about bloody baby dolls inside plastic bags, scooting their plastic bodies around and down the hallways trying to get me. Also, another reoccurring dream was a farmer-type man in overalls with a pitchfork walking by all my family members just to get to me. At the end of the dream he would stab me in the chest. This dream started when I lived in Highland. I never was able to give birth naturally either. I had to have C-sections. My father passed away at the age of 38 from lung cancer. I was only 15. It has not been an easy life for me, but I'm a Christian and find comfort in God's word. I have tried to read more about this mantis humanoid creature and have not got a lot of info. Usually when I'm reading about it, right before bed I fall asleep very quickly and get nowhere. I'm reaching out because I feel like this is really happening, and not just to me. It doesn't matter to me to get attention via printing a story. I just want to know if you have heard of others like me. Sincerely, CMB.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, it would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.